everyone, you're welcome back to my channel. My name is Titi Lola. I live in Toronto, Canada. If you're looking for content around immigration and lifestyle in Canada, then you're welcome. Do not forget to subscribe to my channel before you leave today, and make sure you also click that bell button so that you know whenever I post a brand new video. I've been meaning to talk about using midwives to have your kids in Canada for the longest time. And the reason why I'm eventually coming around to make this video is because I've had questions, and I recently had someone reach out to me to talk about childbirth in Canada on her YouTube channel. So I'm like, this is a good time to really highlight on this topic, so that when people come to my channel, they can hear me talk about it a bit more, in case they are looking to go on that journey. 8 months ago, I had my second son in my living room using the assistance of 4 midwives, and it was such an interesting experience for me. Even though I was not a first-time mom, the first time I heard about midwives was over 3 years ago when I was having my first son. And it was someone who referred them, but I was more interested in using them because my sister used midwives for her children, for the birth of her children. And when I was doing my master's in the UK, my thesis was actually on childbirth interventions, and I was comparing hospital births versus home births. So who knew that all of that would lead to here? Like, now it feels like everything that happens in my life, even though at the time it's happening, I really cannot put any connection to it, is for a reason. Because at the time I was doing my thesis, this was in 2015, I never ever could imagine that all of that would have any connection with my life now. So it's interesting because the first time I had my son, I used midwives, but I had my son in the hospital with no medical intervention at all. Now that was a good experience. I have that. I'll link that story up here. 3 years ago, and today I can say, oh wow, I had my baby in my living room with the assistance of like the traditional way that I never really, wasn't like there was any grand plan on how I wanted to have the baby until something happened during the pregnancy. I'll talk about that soon. I'm really grateful for that opportunity and the experience to be able to tie in my thesis and my my life 7 years later to everything, and now it all makes sense why God was leading me to do my research. So when I heard about midwives 3 years ago, I used them and they were amazing. It just really made sense to do it again, and I feel like having a good first childbirth experience allows you to not be afraid to have another baby, I guess. I mean, I'll talk about the benefits of using midwives so that I want you to know that that's a good option for you if you're here in Canada, right? So it really made me feel confident to want to have that experience again. Now I really want to talk about why you should consider using a midwife if you're in Canada where you have that as an option, because it's surprising how many people are asking me about how to get a midwife. Oh, my first experience wasn't good. Oh wow, I didn't know I could do this. I didn't know this was an option. And I'm like, are you serious? And some people are like, wow, were you not nervous, like not having the baby in the hospital, like what if there was an emergency, or what would you have done if whatever happened? Now listen, midwives do everything that they are supposed to do to bring a baby out safely. As long as your pregnancy is progressing naturally, you should have nothing to worry about. Also, midwives prepare themselves for an emergency. So even though I was using the services of, the midwifery clinic, I also had a doctor in case I needed to be referred to one in any at any point in the pregnancy. I needed to see a doctor. At 29 weeks in my pregnancy, I tested positive for COVID, and that was an extremely difficult time for me in that pregnancy. And one of the side effects from what I hear of contracting the virus when you're pregnant is that you are more at risk for preterm labor. And I think that's what happened to me, because at 33 weeks I went into labor, and that went on for like 5 hours. I went to the hospital. One of my midwives came, and they already brought in a doctor, and they were discussing like emergency plans with me. Thank God that that was not the case for me. I didn't have to have a premature baby, because the contractions just stopped after like 5 hours. So I'm very grateful for that. Baby stayed in until 39 weeks. And yeah, you can watch my birth story up here. It was a very emotional time for me. Initially, before I contracted COVID and the preterm labor, the plan was I would do like I did the first time, go have the baby in the hospital. But after I went to the hospital at 33 weeks, going through labor and, all of the pain, and it was just too much for me. I had my mask on the whole time. My husband couldn't come with me because they wouldn't let anyone else in the room. It was just me, one midwife, and it was just so difficult. I like being around people that I love. So after my midwife saw how hard it was for me to experience all of that by myself alone, she was like, do you want to start discussing home birth plans? Because if you think this was hard, it's going to be much harder if you're alone by yourself on delivery day. And she said, your husband could be allowed in, but at some point they may ask him to leave, so it's not like he's going to be there the whole time with you. So I was like, nah. So she came by the house one of the days. She came to check on me to see how I was doing, because I was now under close monitoring. And she explained to me, she said, if everything goes well, baby stays up to 37, 38 weeks, then we should plan for a home birth. And she said, don't worry, we'll have an oxygen tank for you. We'll prepare for an emergency if, we need to. But these are the things that, you should expect. So I was like, yeah, I'll go for it, because I want my family to be with me when I'm having my baby. That was how the whole home birth plan came about. I was already 33 weeks and a few days. So it wasn't like there was any grand plan for me to have the baby at home from the beginning like you see on YouTube. There was no such thing. I only embraced the idea after I saw how challenging it could be for me to have the baby at the hospital because of the pandemic. So the baby came over 5 weeks after the preterm labor, and it's funny because the baby decided to come on the day we were having the baby shower. We're having a virtual baby shower, and I just started leaking. My water started breaking. If you watch that video, you see how everything turned out. Thank God everything went well, and baby is 8 months old now. I had some people reach out to me to ask me, so when are you going to take the baby to the hospital? At what point do you have to go to the hospital? And I'm like, no, I don't. The midwives, they do everything. They do all the checks. They check the baby, they check the mother. If you do not absolutely have to go to the hospital, then you don't. They collect the baby's blood. They send it to the, I don't even know where they send it to, but they collect baby's blood to do the blood group and the genotype. They fill out the information to have the baby's like health card to be prepared. All you need to do is just give the baby's names. They send it over, and then the baby's health card will be sent in a mail in a matter of maybe 3-4 weeks, I think. So yeah, and then all you need to do is go online, register your baby, your baby's name and whatnot, and you have your baby's social insurance number, and your baby gets registered for childcare benefit and whatnot. So you really don't have to do anything. The only thing that you can do if you want, it's optional, is if you want to take your baby for a hearing test. I remember there was a joke this Nigerian comedian shared where he said that he went to have his baby in the US and they were asking him if he wanted to do a hearing test, and it was going to cost about $1,000, and they went and slammed the door. I don't know how to tell the joke, but yeah, they said no, that they didn't want the hearing test. They went and slammed the door, and the baby cried. We're like, there you go, my baby can hear. I did the hearing test for Kofi because it was convenient. When I had him over 3 years ago, it was at the hospital, so they came, they did it, and you know, everything was good. But for the second one, you know, having him at home, I was just really thinking that, you know, dragging myself and baby through all of that, you know, to get the hearing test done with the pandemic, I wasn't even thinking about it. So I said I was not interested. But they submitted my information anyways to the people, and they called several weeks later or so, a week or two, I don't even remember when they called, but they called, and at that time I was 100% sure that I wasn't interested, and my husband was like, oh, it's okay, you know, we don't necessarily have to do that test. So we did not take that test. So it's really up to you 100% if you want to take the hearing test or no. Now let's talk about the benefits of using a midwife. Number one, it's way cheaper. So if, like for me, for example, the cost wasn't a factor because I have health insurance, you know, I'm a permanent resident of I was going to say of Nigeria. I'm a permanent resident of Canada. Almost a citizen. Almost. I've submitted my application. So yeah, keeping my fingers crossed. So if you're a permanent resident of Canada, you don't pay out of pocket for anything, as long as like anything that's under the basic care is covered by your health insurance. All you need to do is, you know, if you have prescriptions, you know, you pay for your prescriptions and services under your, say, what's it called, your work insurance that could cover certain things. So you could buy a separate insurance that covers things like prescriptions, so you don't really have to pay that, but that's another topic for another day. So yeah, cost wasn't a factor for me. It was more like quality of care. I'm someone who does not even like going to the hospital, even though like my educational background is linked to that area. I don't even know what I was thinking studying biochemistry and public health. I have no clue what I was thinking, but I don't like the hospitals. I don't like being around sick people because it gets me really emotional. I don't know. But yeah, so I really like that the midwives deliver great quality of care even though they are less expensive. The midwives are like your mother. You know, that's the feeling I got from mine. I don't know if this is a norm for every midwifery clinic. For me, I had 2 midwives who attended to me depending on what day of the week my appointment was, and then I had one who's like a student midwife who's learning, but equally great. But on the day that I had the baby, I had 4 of them because one finished her care very early and she just came and joined them, and it was just amazing having 4 of them. Yeah, my God, my mom was on WhatsApp watching, my sisters were watching, my friends who came for my baby shower stayed the whole time. My husband was there. It was just amazing. Like I really loved it. It was a phenomenal experience, extraordinary, I should say. I really enjoyed it. It's great quality care. 2, they are accessible 24/7. 7 days a week. You can access them. You have access. In my case, I had their direct number. If you don't have their direct number, they have pagers. They all have pagers. You can page them and they will call you back if there's an emergency. Another benefit of using a midwife is that when you use a midwife, your chances of having medical interventions in your childbirth is reduced because they do everything possible to make sure you have the best experience, right? So when it's not absolutely necessary for you to have like medicine in your body, then you don't. If you're someone who likes to see your baby all the time, you like to have ultrasounds and whatnot, then the midwives are not your friend, because they only do ultrasounds when necessary. Like throughout my whole pregnancy with my first son, I only did 2 ultrasounds: the dating ultrasound and the anatomy ultrasound. They do everything with their hand. They use the heartbeats machine to monitor everything. Like they have monitors, and you know, I don't even know what all those things are called, but they do everything with their machines. You don't know, you don't always have to, you know, go get an ultrasound. But yeah, it was okay for me to not have to see my baby all the time. It was nice to always hear their heartbeats, you know. It was just really nice. I always had a wonderful time just listening to their heartbeats. Also, another benefit of choosing a midwife was there were times when I was so sick or so exhausted that I couldn't make my way to their clinic for my visit. And if that's the case, I'll let them know and they will come see me to make sure I'm okay. They won't say, oh, you can't make your visit, okay, let's reschedule you. They'll ask you, how are you feeling? And depending on how you respond, they'll say, okay, maybe you should go to the hospital and I'll meet you there. Or maybe so again, that's, you don't, it's not like when you use midwives the hospital is completely crossed out. You know, it depends. If they really need to do something, they'll say, okay, let's go to the hospital. So you go to the hospital, I'll meet you there. Or sometimes they can even say, I'll come pick you up. Like in my case, my midwife would come pick me up sometimes, and you know, even drop me home. Like amazing. I don't know if this was just me or if this is normal, but this was my experience. It was, I love my midwives. Like I talk about them and I'm like, I can have 5 babies again because of them. I'm just joking, but yeah, they were amazing. So yeah, they would come home to visit me just to make sure I'm doing okay, and you know, just follow up until they're sure everything is fine. So yes, those are the reasons for me why I would highly recommend using midwives. If you're looking to onboard midwives for your pregnancy and your childbirth, you can go online and look for midwifery clinics in your area. It's always nice to choose one that's close to your area, so that if you have to go for your visit, it's not a travel. If you have used midwives, I would like to know what your experience have been with them. If you haven't, I would like to know if you wish you did, or if you're happy with, you know, going with a doctor at the hospital. Yeah, I really want to share your experience as well. Let me know what you learned and what you did that was helpful. I want to share your story, so please let me know in the comment section below. I'll be looking to chat with you. If you want to send me an email, please do so. Send your email to lolablackmedia@gmail.com. I'll be happy to chat with you over there and share your story if you'd like. Yeah, so thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video, please give this video a thumbs up. If you know anyone who's pregnant or looking to have a baby in Canada, please share this video with them. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel and click the bell button when you do so, so you know whenever I post other video talking about childbirth and, you know, delivery in Canada, and things that, you know, useful information that, you know, you need to know if you're going on this journey. Thank you again for watching this video, and I'll see you in my next video. Until then, bye bye.